Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Fuel for Success, episode number 11. We're talking about church growth today because it's Wednesday. I'm excited. It's one of my favorite topics. We've been looking forward to this all week. It's great to see everybody that's on the show today. Welcome, everyone, and people are still joining as the show's going on here. Good morning, Matt. How are you doing today?
I'm blessed. I am blessed. There's no way to describe how blessed I feel today. Well, I don't overestimate the power of the words God is good. God really is good.
God is
And I'm
good.
excited about today's topic. I'm also excited about the launch of the Soul Winners show. We have made a commitment to train soul winners across the world. And that's why we released the Soul Winners Training Center for free, canceled everybody's paying membership, which was a big step of faith for us. But I felt
Right.
like, we both felt like God wanted us to do it because of the cause. And then now we're also bringing every Wednesday at noon a live show specifically focused to train soul winners. So, needless to say, I am so excited about this because I believe we've got to speed it up. We've got to kick it in gear and get our churches extremely focused on soul winning, my friend.
Right. I agree, and I'm excited about it too. We're trying to get people, to get the word out. So go ahead and let your friends know that there's that show on Wednesday as well, and put the link up here as well. Soul Winners Training Center. We've got a shorter domain name now, soulwinner.tv. So you can go there. You can sign up for free and access all of. There's over 120 resources for soul winning there. It's absolutely free. There's no catch. There's not going to be any charge at any point. So go ahead, and if you haven't already signed up for that, do that. It looks like we lost Matt for just a second, so I'm going to talk about that. And we're going to be doing that just to avoid any confusion because we're working on church growth on Wednesday on Fuel for Success. We figured we'd just go ahead with the continuity of that and do the Soul Winners show every Wednesday at noon Eastern time. And that'll also be a spreecast using the same platform that we have here. So we look forward to everybody joining that. All of the archives will be available on soulwinner.tv, so you'll be able to get those. And I'm excited about that. It's really, I really feel like there's a lot of information. We get a lot of interaction from folks.
Sorry to cut you off, Mike. You
No,
know
it's
why I'm
good.
so excited about the
Tell me.
release of being able to give everybody access to this? I preached Sunday night probably one of the most passionate messages I've ever preached about soul winning. It was extreme passion and motivation and just a wake up call to get back to reaching the lost, right? And usually I leave those services frustrated because there's nothing more frustrating for people than to have a burden and a passion, but a lack of knowledge of how to do it. Man, I know a lot of people that have passion, but they don't know how to walk across the street and talk to a stranger or how to talk to someone of another denomination. So the fact that I could put this website up on the church view that night and say, look, I want you to have access to 120 of my teachings, very practical teachings on soul winning. It made me feel so good because I didn't feel like I left those people without, um, tools or without at least the next step. We've always got to be willing to focus and answer the next step. I'm a guy that deals religiously with the what next question. And I believe that churches that want to grow or people that want to win souls should focus on that. It's not enough to go to the altar. And of course, I'm getting ahead of myself. It's not
Mm,
enough to go to the altar and ask God to make you a soul winner or to cry over souls. And we should do that. And I do it all the time. But then what? What's the next step? So I think that we need a plan to reach our families, to reach our friends, our neighbors, our coworkers. And so, needless to say, this is probably the happiest time of my whole life. Just a lot of good things happening that I've worked very hard on, probably for the last 18 years of just traveling across the world, doing soul winning seminars and leading. Of course, we've done 78 soul winners boot camps We trained over 36,000 soul winners in those 78 boot camps. A lot of experience, a lot of memories, a lot of lessons, life lessons, a lot of do's and don'ts that I've gleaned through the years. And of course, I want to impart that and share it because in my lifetime, I'll never get to travel everywhere that is needed. And I'm not saying I'm the answer because I know I'm not, but I'm part of the answer. Right. I have a mantle on my life from God to keep the body of Christ motivated and focused on soul winning. So I'm so thankful for technology. If I would have had access to this technology, it's just, that's what I told the church Sunday night. We're without excuse. They filled Jerusalem with their doctrine in the book of Acts with no Twitter, no Facebook, no internet, no airplanes, no cars, no text messaging, no cell phones, no radio or TV. And they just had a radical passion that soul winning was their lifestyle. And that's where we need to get in the body of Christ. Again, where this becomes our life, not something we do once a month on a Saturday.
That's good. And I think we're really looking forward to being able to do that impartation about soul winning on the Wednesday shows, and also to be able to interact and engage with folks, because people have a lot of life experience, and as we see in these episodes of Fuel for Success, people share their thoughts and their understanding of things, and it leads to a better overall understanding. Well, hey, Matt, we've got tons of questions on the topic of church growth. They keep piling up, and we'll get to as many as we can. I've got a few to start with, and of course, I want to encourage everyone that's on the show right now that's joining us. Go ahead and type in the chat box over there or down below on the question. Click on that. Submit any question that you have, follow-up question or new question on the topic of church growth today, and we'll get to that. I have a question kind of left over that I wanted to address, and in any church structure, it takes administrative and all these things to be able to enable church growth. My first question is regarding relationships between leaders and pastors, and how often should a pastor meet with the church leaders? What's overkill? What's not enough? Where do you find that happy medium?
That's actually a really good practical question that I think a lot of that depends on the size of the church, the size of the vision, what season the church is in. But for me, I'm a believer in communication, and I believe that you actually can't communicate enough.
Right.
However, having said that, I hate most of the meetings that I attend because most of them, there's a lot of fluff and not a lot of action. There's not a lot of focus, and so I've grown frustrated through the years attending these meetings as a guest speaker, watching how much time is wasted. And I think that kind of demoralizes our volunteers and leaders over a period of time. So I think before we address how often we should meet, we should deal with the type of meetings that we have. So I believe meetings should start on time. I mean, like if you tell your leaders our meeting starts at 7, the moment that clock strikes 7, begin. Immediately begin. No small talk. The small talk happens prior to the meeting in the parking lot on the way in or in the hallway on the way in. 7 o'clock, let's go. Start leading the meeting with an agenda. I believe every meeting must have a typed out agenda for your leaders sitting right in front of them, and stick with it. Obviously you have to give room for some, flexibility there, but you need to stick with that agenda as much as possible. It needs to have a start and an ending time. So if you tell your leaders we're going to meet from 7 to 8, don't abuse their time. Yes, sometimes, but I think the more we're conscientious, I think it's an issue of being conscientious of that. If I say this meeting is going to be done at 8, then let's really try to finish it at 8. Maybe 8:05 is an exception. But I see a lot of leaders kind of abuse their people's time by just carrying these meetings over longer time than what they designated when they didn't really need to. I think a lot of our meetings actually could have happened over conference calls.
Right.
A a big believer in that. I see a lot of wasted gas money and people's time driving to a meeting when I'm like, oh my word, we could have solved this over a conference call. Everybody could have stayed in their house. Of course, I believe we need to assemble together. I believe there needs to be that personal touch. So let me give you three different scenarios here to answer that question. One, with your full-time staff. I had 10 full-time staff members when I pastored in Florida. Um, that was quite a lot of communication that needed to happen. So we met every day religiously at 9 a.m. in the office for a 30-minute tag in, and we kept them at that. As much as we loved each other, we had a blast. You know, everybody had their Starbucks or their tea or their snack. Man, that thing started at 9:30. Let's go. It's time to execute, you know. So we had a daily staff meeting. So that's for full-time churches. I believe that there should be some kind of structure of daily communication, whether it's through a conference call or a meeting time at the office. But meetings don't have to be long. Most meetings can be 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You can get a lot done in 15 minutes. As you know, Mike, we do our Mission 25 tag in every Thursday at noon, and we're done in 25 minutes. Right. And we keep it within that. Secondly, is your volunteer leaders. Let's say your staff, your department heads. I like to meet with them monthly, and I believe that you should try to get your meetings time to be consistent. So whether it's the first Tuesday of the month, a lot of times I like to use the same time they're already coming. So I might say to them, hey, I want to meet you Wednesday night right after church, the first Wednesday of the month. But here's what's cool. You don't have to give up an extra night this week. Our meeting's going to be 30 minutes. It's just a point of communication. So, you know, a lot of that depends, though, Mike, again, on the structure of a church, the style of the church, what's going on. I think that the more organized the church is, the less they need to meet. I think if there's a regular flow of communication through email and text, I think we underutilize texting and email with passing along communication. A lot of times I tell my staff, you know, you really, and I don't mean this bad, but you really didn't need to call me about this. That's something I could have answered in a text real quick. I love chatting. I don't mind chatting, but a lot of times we waste each other's time. I see a lot of companies and business and churches, a lot of their workers are not productive because they waste each other's time a lot. We're all guilty of that, especially when you love the people you work with. That makes it tough to stay disciplined because you love the people you work with, you got good connection, good camaraderie, good flow, and you want to chat, you want to small talk, you want to, and there needs to be that. There needs to be that, you know, time of we connect and we talk, but I see too much just unproductive time in offices, let's say that. Too long of lunch breaks, you know. So how often? I'd say at least once a month with your department heads or your whatever, your secretary, something like that. I mean, this is Mike. We could go all show
Right.
on this question.
Right.
We could really break it down, but I'm going to keep it simple. Just take the few principles I've given you, and I hope it'll help you. But I think meeting before service with key people is good because that's consistent. It's every week. You know, so I like what Derek Weber said.
Yeah.
Time management is the difference between success and failure, and I believe that.
I agree completely. I also like, you know, what you said about there's
Derek
some.
Weber's probably in the top 3 administrators I've ever met. He's a get it done guy. He's on top of every detail. He's incredible. We should bring him on to pick his brain.
That would be good. We'll connect and make that happen. I was just going to mention that you said really gave 3 key tips to helping keep meetings on focus, and I think it's important. You know, we can learn a lot from the business world really about that. And you said start on time, have an agenda, and stick to it, and end on time. I would actually add to that one thing, and that is leave every meeting with some action items. So if you have that in mind, then you can keep your meeting focused. Like, okay, this meeting, we're going to figure out what I have to do next, so that you have your next steps in line when you leave the meeting. Good stuff.
No, that's good right there too. I like that. Everyone having actions to execute, because it's at the end of the day, it's all about execution.
Right.
period.
Exactly. Hey, let me jump topics just a little bit. I've got a question on increasing number of guests. What can a church do to increase the number of guests?
You know, I could talk about this for 6 weeks straight and never
Yeah.
run out of time, because I'm the guy that I'm very practical and realistic in my thinking, and I like to deal with the facts and the truth. I don't buy into hype, and I don't buy into false work, and I don't buy into making things look better than what they are. You know, the reality is this: one of the reasons that we don't get more guests to our church is because we're not connecting properly. That's why you'll always hear me say it all comes back to training, Mike. We have got to train our people at the basics. First of all, they've got to learn the basics, my friend. One of the reasons why the military is so powerful is because they train and they train and they train. One of the reasons why professional athletes are unbelievable is because they train and they train. Same thing with musicians, same thing with actors. Anybody that's world class, pro, unbelievable, what we would call masters, what we would call excellent, what we would call jaw dropping, like, whoa, you know, Mike, it all comes back to training. So, how do we get more guests? I can give you ideas. I can give you 10 ideas right now on how to get more guests. But understand that until we learn how to connect with the people in our communities, there's not enough billboards, there's not enough TV ads, there's not enough giveaways that are going to help a church grow better than connecting with people and literally like saturating, immersing our people into becoming experts at building relationships. If we as people that take our church serious become experts in relationships, we will not struggle with growth or numbers. Because remember, the bottom line is if we slow down to connect and we build connections and friendships and relationships with people, those people will easily come to church. Now, what can a church to do to get more guests? I think that, like what I talked about Sunday morning, or Sunday, I said this past Sunday in a church I was preaching in, I said, time out. How many of you made phone calls this week? Be brutally honest. How many of you made at least 10 phone calls to friends, family, coworkers, or whomever is on your network list, your contact list? You know, anybody in sales is going to have a Rolodex, right? They're going to have a list of contacts that they work. It's amazing to me how many of our members don't invite people. At the end of the day, it does come back to the law of numbers. Even God said, you reap what you sow. You know, he that sows sparingly reaps sparingly. That's the bottom line right there. Then, you know, Mike, so in a church of maybe 400 to 500, I don't think 5 people raise their hands to calling more than 10 guests. So why are we not beating the streets and beating the bushes and being aggressive and making phone calls and persuading people? Enthusiasm is contagious. Ready for this? Enthusiasm sells.
Right.
So a lot of people just never invite people to church. I really believe listen, I'm for marketing. I'm for programs and systems that help our church grow. But I laugh in a sad way at some of the churches. I look at them and it feels so shallow to me to hear them talk about all their programs and all that they're doing to get people to come to their church, and they don't have the first clue about follow-up or connecting or building true sustainable relationships. But then if you really want your church to grow, you got to do it biblically and go to Luke 14. Luke 14 is the answer to church growth. It's where Jesus got angry about his house being empty. He kept sending them back out. What would happen? What would honestly happen if we did this? If we did it the way Jesus did? He sent his servant out 3 different times. That was work. That was effort. It was labor. Jesus never let him slow down. He was never satisfied until what he said, my house shall be full. So when we get to that place where we are willing to send, I'm sorry, you got to go back out. Come on, let's go. You know you should have brought some visitors here. Come on, baby. You know what I'm saying? You know, that kind of breaks the mold right there. But you like I said, I deal in facts. I deal in reality. I deal with truth. The truth of the matter is the reason why there's not more guests is because of obscurity. It's because people in our city don't know where our church is. They don't, and we got to learn how to be more aggressive with our numbers, let's say. Again, like I said, I could talk about this for 6 weeks.
That's good. It kind of just
but,
like
Mike, when we serve the poor, we got word of mouth. Word of mouth wins. Word of mouth. When you serve the poor, when your church does good works in the community, people will flood to your church. Because people in this day and age, listen to me, rank, hardcore sinners, drunks, atheists, sinners are disgusted with religion. You hear me? Look at me in my eyes. They are absolutely up to here, disgusted with religion. A billboard is not going to capture sinners in your community. What's going to capture sinners is seeing a church that's more than just a steeple and more than choir robes and more than fancy clothes and more than, you know what, it's going to move our communities? When they see us actually doing what Jesus said.
right.
Jesus gave us the answer at Church Growth. Let your light shine that they may see your good works. When they see our good works in our community, Jesus said they'll glorify our Father in heaven. So the real answer, my friends, is to get radical about serving the poor. You go to Luke 14. Everybody the servant invited was normal people. They had jobs, they owned property, and all of them didn't have time to come to the supper. Jesus immediately changed focus and said, now you go to the lame, the maimed, the blind, the halt, the poor. First people he told them to go to was to the poor. You go read it in Luke 14. I'm telling you right now, this is the answer. Mike, you know where I've gotten to in my life?
Where's that?
I've gotten in my life where I literally am at a place where I completely just want to do everything God's way. Everything. My relationships, my finances, my spiritual life, my health. I literally am at the place where I've become a fanatic about the Bible so much I sleep with it on at night. I'm like turned into a fanatic about doing it God's way. God's way always works. I really believe God didn't leave us in the dark. The answer to church growth is in the Bible. It
Right.
really is. We just don't want to do the work. You know what it all comes back to? Doing the work. Most guys I come preach for want me to come in and pull a rabbit out of the hat, and they want something easy. Church growth is not easy. Soul winning and discipleship is not easy. You know what's easy? Sticking up billboards, printing out 5,000 colored postcards, and mailing them out to our city. That's easy. There's no relationship building. Having an Easter drama, that's easy. Yes. Will that bring in a crowd? Yes. Will it grow a church? No. The only thing that's going to grow a church is one-on-one relationships, good old-fashioned home Bible studies, making phone calls, having coffee and tea, serving the poor, bringing people in with wheelchairs, bringing in the homeless, bringing in people that have no value, just getting radical about Luke 14.
It's good. It is all about execution, and until individuals begin to use their own energy and resources to reach other individuals, no connections happen, and no growth happens. You actually said Rolodex a little while ago. I don't know.
I went old school. I went way old school, my friend.
I had this vision of salesmen with their Rolodex, and they jump in their Camaro with the T-tops and put in their Journey 8-track tape and then go see the client. Okay, so
good old-fashioned Rolodex. That's how I got started, my friend. Now I have this thing called Insightly that's amazing.
CRM. Awesome. Yeah, they don't know how much care how much you know until they know how much you care, Marie. That's exactly right. Hey, this is a question that's kind of been on my mind, and one that I've been struggling with a little, not necessarily struggling with, but pondering, and I'd love to get your insight on it. How can a church keep ministry fresh? And what I mean by that is, a lot of times, like we could potentially, take, for example, our food ministry that we do locally month after month after month. How do you keep it from seeming mundane or just like something you do, and you keep it fresh and so that people are motivated? What are your thoughts on that?
That man, that is a really good question. I mean, that's a good question because it can happen and does happen to all. We're here. You know what it comes back to? Passion. It really comes back to passion. When your heart beats for it and you have passion, yes, you can fall into a rut. Yes, you can grow weary and tired, but that passion will push you through. Listen, nobody can defeat passion. Nobody can slow someone down that has passion. Nobody can stop a person with passion. People with passion get up. People with passion, they look at walls and they're not fazed by walls. They don't care about obstacles. They don't even want to know about the problem, so to speak. People with passion blow through it, my friend. So even when they do lack freshness, it's only for a small temporary time, and then they come out of it because of that passion. Now, on a practical level, what can they do to keep ministry fresh? I honestly believe most churches are underutilizing the fivefold ministry. I believe one of the reasons why churches are not growing is because they're not tapped into the power of something that, again, talking about doing it God's way. God's structure and God's ordination for the church is the fivefold ministry. Please don't misunderstand what I'm about to say, but in our movement, we're a pastor movement. We don't really elevate and tap into those other four resources that God has called and anointed and gifted that are really honestly just as important as the pastor. So I think that alone, having access to the fivefold ministry, bringing in someone that flows in the prophetic, is it different? Sure. Are they going to like call people out and read their mail? Sure. But it keeps it fresh. An evangelist coming in and harvesting and, picking the church up. Bringing in a teacher to come in and teach about specific things that a pastor couldn't teach on. Having an apostle come in and help start and launch new ministries. I think a lot of, what it comes back to? One of the reasons that they're not fresh is because they lack vision, or they don't challenge the people to go to the next level. They have a success and they stop. They don't keep pushing themselves. One thing you'll discover about all growing churches, is they never stop pushing. They never stop being creative. So what you need to do to keep it fresh is tap into some You know what? We are not, here's the number one reason why I believe right here. We're not using gifted people that sit on our pews. We have gifted people that sit on our pews that have creative minds that we never tap into. People that have administrative geniuses that we never tap into. So what happens is this causes us trying to do it all. The pastor, the assistant pastor, the youth pastor, the secretary. We have a do it all mentality when in reality, teamwork makes the dream work. We've got to tap into the resources that God has given us. And I think that kind of helps keep it fresh as well. Again, man, it's hard to cover it in 5 minutes, isn't it?
It is. It absolutely is. Hey, we're down to about a minute left. Probably don't have time to jump to another question. I am going to just remind everyone that if you're watching this and you see value in it, we're actually today, the Soul Winner Show is in 30 minutes after the end of this show. So 30 minutes.
I got time to juice real quick.
That's right.
Hey guys, let me say this real quick. I don't know it all. I'm literally learning every day. I mean, literally every day I'm learning new things. So the fact that you take the time to watch this show means the world to me. I can't thank you enough. Mike and I both feel completely humbled that God has put this in our hands. But we just want to inspire, empower, encourage, and share lessons and principles So we hope this encouraged you today, my friends. You can watch every previous episode at fuelforsuccess.tv. I do ask that you put it out on your social media and spread the word about this show. See you tomorrow is about business and entrepreneurship at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. God bless, my friends.